there! Welcome to this two-part tutorial where we'll be learning how to create a martial art logo animation from a vectorized image from Freepik. The first thing we need to do is prepare the file in Illustrator. Ready? Well, the first thing we have to do in Illustrator is very easy. Basically, save in different layers all the elements we are going to animate in After Effects. In fact, if you know how to do it, you can skip this part and focus on the After Effects part. Well, the first layer we have to create is one which has all the elements. I usually call it model. We are going to use this as reference of space and size. If anything gets out of place, we can go back to this layer and see where everything was placed. So, what we are going to do is create as many layers as elements, which will be animating in After Effects afterwards. So, the first one is the fist, the second lines, the third the date, the fourth our word hardcore, and then this martial art banner. So, let's make 5 layers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we are going to name them with the precise names to make it easy to work with in After Effects. So, this one will be fist. This date. The other one, hardcore. This one, martial. And the last one will be lines, because of these lines over here. And now we're going to copy each element in the pertinent layer. So let's copy the fist with Ctrl or Command C. And we are going to paste it with Ctrl or Command, Shift and V. Okay, and we are going to do the same for the date elements. Ctrl C and Ctrl Shift V. Also the same for the lines. Ctrl C, Ctrl Shift V. Okay, let's do the word hardcore. Okay. Ctrl V and martial arts. Ctrl C and Ctrl Shift V. Now we just need to save it as the default format of Illustrator, which is .ai. And I'm going to save it as fists. So we are now in After Effects. The first thing we need to do is bring the layers we have in Illustrator. So double click here, select the file, and it's very important to import it as a composition. Okay, open it. This means that we have our layers separated. Now we can create a composition, clicking here. We will name it a main. And here we see the size. I always use the standard HD, which is 1920 by 1080 pixels. I also use 25 FPS because it's the standard for video. The length will be 5 seconds. Great. Anyway, if we want to undo these settings, we can click here in these lines and then composition settings, and there we go. Okay, so we are going to move this from here and drag all the layers to our composition. Perfect. Okay, I have this button selected, which means that our background is transparent. And if we deselect it, it will be black. Guys, we don't need to convert all these Adobe layers to shape layers. However, I recommend doing this in this case. Okay, now we are going to select the layers, right-click, and go to Create Shapes from Vector Layer. So we have all the layers here, and we don't need the Illustrator layers anymore. Hit Delete to remove it from here. Move Model to the bottom And I think we don't need it for the moment, so we're going to make it invisible, hitting the eyeball icon. Right, the second step we need to do is pre-compose every layer to work with each of them individually and then use them more easily in our main composition. So, to pre-compose, we're going to select one layer and hit Ctrl-Shift-C, Control or Command as you need, and then select Move all the attributes into the new composition and adjust composition time to the time span of the selected layers. You can deselect Open New Composition and do the same for the rest. Here, Ctrl-Shift-C again, right? And Ctrl-Shift-C, okay. Okay, and again. And we are ready to go. So let's start with the date. Here we have it, double click, and there you go. We are only working with the date now. If we need to come back to the main one, we have it here. And if we close it by mistake, you have it here. Great. Let's work here with an easy, effective style. In fact, it isn't a style. It's more like playing with the dimension, layer, and size. So, as we have 4 elements but only one layer, we are going to duplicate until we get 4 layers. So, Ctrl D, and Ctrl D, and we have 4. We are going to name the layers with the same name so that we can identify them more easily. So this will be established, EST, then dot. This will be the year 1973. This, the first line, line 1, and dot, the second line, line 2. In case you don't know, to change the name of a layer, just select it and hit Enter. Guys, do you know how to link one element to a single layer and not to the 4 of them? Well, let me show you. Let's make all the elements invisible, selecting the eyeball icons, except one of them. Here you can explore the content and see each group is equivalent to one shape. So here in Established, we are only interested in this word, so we are going to make the rest of them invisible. Move to the next one, hit the eyeball. With this one, the only element we need is the date, so we are going to hide the rest. We'll do the same for line 1, great, hide this. And let's do the same for line 2. So I guess it's this one, right, perfect. Okay. Everything is ready. So as I said, we are going to work with this scale-related effect. Let's select this line. The shortcut for the scale is the S key. So have a look. Here we can easily change the scale. See? Ctrl-Z to go back. What we need to do is remove the proportion between the height and the width. So, click on this small chain. So, this will affect the width and this one the height. To get this effect, we'll need to replace the anchor point. And to do this, we are going to select the layer, then select this tool, and we drag it here. So we've created this kind of effect. So let's make visible again all the elements, and let's reposition the anchor points. The line 2 is going to be here, and the date, we are going to move it here, then established over here. So we select everything and we press the S key, the shortcut for the scale, and we have them all here. What we are going to do now is deselecting the option of constraining the proportion of the width and the height. And for each animation, I think it would be interesting if they had a duration of half a second. Look, here in the timeline we have 1 second, that is 25 frames. So half a second will be over here, but we'd better select 15 frames. I think it's better. That's the length. This thing I'm bringing here, we can bring as many as we want, will serve us as a reference, a small mark. Great. So we put the timeline in our mark, select all the elements, and this will be the final position. That is, when the animation finishes, it will look as we are seeing it now, like this. As we are modifying the size, scale, what we are going to do is hit the small clock. See? We've activated all of them and we have created a keyframe. So we move to the beginning and this will be the final aspect of the animation. We are going to set the width at 0. It has disappeared as it is small as 0. In case we want to see the entire animation, we would find it in the width. Like this. I think we need to add a natural touch, make it more powerful. So here's a tip. Go to the end, to our mark, then go back to frames 1 and 2, and here we set a bigger value at the end, for example 120. Well, let's play this now. I'm going to lower the work area to make the animation shorter. Now if we hit play, it looks like there is a reprise, like it's stretching, like a spring that is pulling it to the back. If you want to give a more natural or cartoon look, select everything and use the speed effect that comes by default. So right-click and look for Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. Okay, so let's click on here. Perfect. And now you'll see it has more a natural look. Great. Yeah, it's really cool, right? So we are done with the date. Now move on to the main composition and see that it's here. I think I'll move the 15 frames mark over here so that it is shown in every pre-composition. So move to Fist and double click. There you go. The mark isn't here. So put it again, right? As I told you, this is going to be the final position and it's how the final image will be. So we are going to work with it from here. I would like to make a pendulum effect like a bell that is moving. So we are going to make it 3D by clicking here. And now in transform, we have the X rotation and the Y rotation. So as I said, a pendulum would be with the X rotation, right? As it's 3D, we can move it. And the same with the Y-axis. Great! Control Z, Control Z. Let's modify our anchor point once again. Like if it were a bell. So we're going to move this up. More or less. And in the final position, we are going to click on our stopwatch over here. Let's move to the beginning and set the right angle, 90 degrees. Okay, you can see it here. Okay. Okay, perhaps it's a bit boring, don't you think so? So we're going to try again to give it more strength. That's 1 and 2 frames to the back, and we enter here a value below 0. As we said 20% before, here we're going to enter minus 20. Let's see it now. Okay, now it's much better, right? But we want to give it more strength. So we are going to do an effect in the scale too. So we click on the stopwatch to have a keyframe. We move to the beginning and we set it at 0. It looks like it has more length, like it's coming from far away. It's looking better, right? But we'll give it even more punch, more strength. So let's create here a keyframe like before with a 20% more scale than the final size. So we set it at 120 and now it's, let's see. Okay, it's looking great. Let's go back to the main composition. Oh yeah, I like it. Perfect. The next thing we are going to do is the word hardcore, because I would like it to appear at the same time that the fist, so that these two elements are connected directly. Let's double click, and as we are going to do the same effect as the punch, we are copying the same values as we set for the fist. So go here. We have the main composition too. Double click and we copy it. Let's go back to hardcore and paste it. Guys, let's move now to the reference of 15 frames and put the mark again to make it easier for us to work. Now open Fist and copy the settings that we have modified before. Then scale, Ctrl+C, and we open the scale hitting S and we paste it in hardcore, Ctrl+V. Sorry, I mean we have to go to the beginning. And we got the same effect in the scale. We can also modify the pendulum movement that I've named before as bell. Thus, in the hardcore layer, we hit and we make it 3D. We copy the X rotation effect of the fist and we paste it here. Ctrl+V. Now we have it. But what happens? Well, we haven't modified the anchor point and it's still at the top. What we need to do is modify it and place it at the bottom. And the effect will be pretty similar. Guys, I like it a lot. So go back to the main composition. And here we have the things we've done so far. Let's continue with the lines now. Double click on the lines. For the lines, there's a very interesting effect that comes by default next to context. Here in Add, it's called Trim Paths. Let's select it, and there you go. So this makes a drawing in the sense that every shape is drawn from the beginning. So as we want it to be from the center, let's modify the anchor points once again. We set it more or less at the middle. It hasn't to be very precise. And there you have these effect options. We have the end word, and this is the final look. So we hit the stopwatch and we know it will end up looking like this. So we go to the start and we set the value at 0. See? It's drawn. Perfect. But we are going to give it a punchy look. We'll do the same for the scale. Go to our mark and hit the S key. Okay, here we have it at 100%. At the beginning, we are going to set it at 0. Wow, it has much more strength now. But we're going to do the same trick as before. We go back to frames 1 and 2 and we move it up from the 20% to the 120%. Let's bring down the work area to this point. Let's see, much more effective, right? Move to our main composition now. And guys, it's almost ready. The only missing part is the words martial arts. Okay, double click. As it's like a small banner, I think it will be great to make it look like I'm rolling or like turning a page. Luckily, we have that same effect. It's called page turn, I think. Let's type page here. And there you go, page turn. Select it. We have this small controller that allows us to move our banner as if it were a page or a real banner or a flag. See? This effect is very simple. There you have the options to place it. See? Here, bottom right corner, to use it from the right corner. But we can change it to use it from the left, for example. In our case, I think that's better from the right corner. So, as this would be the final position, we are going to do the same as before. Go here to our mark, and in the fold position, we set this as our last one. And the first one, we are going to go back to the beginning, and we fold it completely. Great. There you go. We have the page turn effect. Great. As we don't want it to look that neat, we can do some things. The first step would be to simply change the opacity in the first frame to 0. We hit the T key. That is the shortcut for opacity. We click on the stopwatch and set it at 0, and 1 frame later we set it at 100. There we go. Go back to our main composition. So guys, we have all the elements animated individually, but as you can see, it's a bit chaotic, don't you think? It's pretty hard to read everything at the same time. So, what we are going to do is organize all the elements. I think that the fist would come first as it has more strength, and the second would be the hardcore. Then would be the lines that are related to the fist, then the date, and the last one would be the explanation martial arts. So, these two that come first are right, and after that, the lines. Okay, let's see it a little bit. I think more or less like this. Yes, I think it's great. The next thing would be the date, so let's set it right after the lines. More or less over here. Let's see. Yes, there it's fine. And the last thing will be martial arts, so right after the date. Okay. Okay, I'll expand it a little bit. Yeah, I like it very much, so I'm going to leave it here like this. And guys, if you want to save the composition or export it, you can save it like in any other program. And to export it, you can go to Add to Render Queue, and this menu will appear. If you want to keep the transparency, go to Output Module, double-click on it, and here in the channels you can select Alpha or RGB plus Alpha. Any of these would be fine. And that's all. Hope you liked the tutorial as much as I did, and thanks for watching. See you next time.